Greetings and welcome to BYOSpirit and Everything Paranormal. My name is Paula and I am one of the investigators here for the channel. I want to welcome you, and today's episode is another installment in the series on the Unborn, and this episode is on shadow people. I think that this has been a very requested episode, and I think the reason that this subject is so requested is because, other than demons, this is one of the scariest entities to people. And I think because shadow people are very misunderstood, and there are very widely differing opinions even within the paranormal community about what shadow people are, the threat that they pose, how to get rid of them, if you can get rid of them. So I think that because there is such a varying difference of opinion even within the paranormal community, and the varying types of shadow people that they really do scare people, and not without reason. So with that said, in this episode, these are my opinions. This is based on my own research and based on my own experience as a paranormal investigator. I am sure that there are investigators out there that will not agree with me. I am sure that there are people out there that will not agree with me on the opinions that I express in this video, and that's fine. Just please be respectful. I respect other people's opinions. I just ask that you have an open mind and respect my opinion also. So with that said, I want to approach this subject by outlining the typical ways in which shadow people manifest. In other words, how they usually appear to people. And then go into the most common types of shadow people, and then the motivations that seem to be behind shadow people. And then I want to present at the very end a few theories within the paranormal community about what shadow people really are. And like I said, they're very widely varying, and some of them are very controversial opinions. So as far as how shadow people typically appear, they are usually appear in human form, usually male in figure, and unlike apparitions, they are opaque. In other words, they are black and you cannot see through them. Where an apparition, you can usually see see through them and see what's behind them. A shadow person, you can't. It's just like a black void that shoots through, the lens of your camera, on the end of your peripheral vision, or come up and over you while you're in bed. They usually are 3 to 4 feet high. However, there are some that can manifest and appear 6 to 7 feet or more tall. There are some that appear in a cloak, sort of like the Grim Reaper. There are also some that appear in a hat and in a coat, like an undertaker's coat. They usually have no eyes. However, there are some that have glowing red eyes, like a demon. They usually appear in your peripheral vision. They move very quickly. They are wicked fast, and that's why they are so hard to catch in any kind of like video and almost impossible to catch with a still shot with a digital camera. They can usually appear like peeking around corners or peeking in a doorway. They usually are aware and react to us. The most common ones are. Many attempt to communicate, and you can catch EVPs that are attributed to shadow people. EVPs are electronic voice phenomena. They can walk through walls and through solid objects, and some can even give off a demonic appearance and really mimic the attributes of a demon. There are about 4 main categories of the types of shadow people. And the first one and the most common one are what I call like lurkers or observers. And these are the ones that are generally found in bedrooms. They are often reported standing in like bedroom doorways or in the corners just watching. These shadow entities don't generally have any intent. Most of them just seem to be observing or looking. They usually flee at being noticed, vanishing around the corner or simply going through a solid wall. They will wander around a location, often following people or stalking them. They are your typical classic human-shaped form. They sometimes appear with a hat and a coat. The less common is like a vague figure that is like, looks like it's got a piece of cloth thrown over it that's just not well formed. They typically cause a sense of dread or foreboding. This class of shadow people seem to be attached to a person or an individual, and they have actually been known to follow someone from place to place. Now, with this said, caution as always needs to be remembered, because just like with any type of entity, what may seem benign at first can then evolve into something more malevolent, just as if, you know, a malevolent spirit can lull you into a safe, a feeling that you're safe and it's okay and it's not anything to worry about. Then later, after, you know, a firm attachment has been made and it's too late, a more, you know, deep possession can happen. So just keep that in mind to, you know, if you have a shadow person, to be very aware about what's happening to you and around you and what's actually going on, so that if anything kind of escalates, that you're aware of what's going on. The next type that I want to talk about are what are called visitors or transient shadow people. And these are the ones that are the least like documented. And they typically are like going from one place to another. They don't really seem interested in interacting with anybody. And these are the least understood because they don't linger and they don't interact. In other words, you know, there's no EVPs, there's no interaction, they don't hang around, they don't really, you know, there's no reason for them to stay put or to stay attached to a person. And, it's just whoop, one and done, basically. The next class is what I call omens. And some sightings of shadow people appear to be omens or portents of something bad that's to come. So there is actually a shadow animal that is referred to in, and I'm going to murder this because it's German, a Bargest, which means, I believe, hellhound. That is often considered a portent of death. And this shadow animal appears outside, and they have red glowing eyes. So, this is not typically an animal that would, show up inside, like an animal spirit that would show up inside the house. That would be like the spirit of, a pet that you had lost, or the pet of someone who had lived there before. These are typically just to the outside and have the red glowing eyes, where, the spirit of a lost pet would not have the red glowing eyes. And they're generally associated and attached to one person, and they disappear after the, bad event or misfortune, tragedy has taken place. Now, there's also a class that are called haunting shadow figures. And these are probably the most scary and the most malevolent because they are tied to a place. These are probably all, the most dangerous because they're the hardest to get rid of also. There are several types that can make up this large group. In general, they are tied to a location, and they tend to be more malevolent. They are less likely to flee when they are spotted, and they actually choose to attack instead, where like a lurker would, or an observer would flee when you notice them. These don't. They actually, attack you instead. At the extreme end of this spectrum are the worst of the shadow people. And these are what are referred to as demonic shadow creatures. And what these shadow creatures do is they want for us to express negative emotion and to project negative emotion, because they actually kind of feed off that negative emotion, like fear, anxiety, things of that nature. And for, weaker of these types of shadow people, they could cause you to feel like sick and run down and weakened. So let's say you had always been, somebody who was perfectly healthy, and you moved to a new home or a new location, and all of a sudden you just develop all these debilitating conditions that are so out of character for you, and they seem to be idiopathic. In other words, they can't really find what's the reasoning, the underlying reason for these conditions are. And if you've seen, like, a shadow person in the home, that could be the reason. And then for the strongest of these entities, they are capable of full-on possessions. And they're also capable of throwing objects. They're capable of shoving and causing real physical harm to an individual. So they do pose a very significant threat. Now, that type of shadow person is not common. It's just like extremely malevolent spirit or a demon. That is not your run-of-the-mill kind of experience with a shadow person. They are on the far end of the spectrum and not the norm, okay? So I don't want you to think immediately, don't just go there immediately and make that jump, okay? Now, my opinions, okay? These are in the paranormal community. There are several theories about what shadow people really are, because they're not really considered ghosts, they're not demonic, they're not this, they're not that, they're not something else. So a lot of people think that they're actually, sorry about that, some kind of alien. There are theories that think that shadow people are interdimensional travelers that are coming from other worlds to ours, and, especially of the lurker or observer type of shadow person. Some people believe that these are time travelers. Some people believe that they are astral bodies. And this theory would be a little bit more familiar to people who are, pagan, neo-pagan, who do a lot of really deep meditation, transcendental meditation, where you get into a state where your etheric body separates from your physical body, not spiritual body, your physical body, and travels to the astral plane. And, a lot of psychics do this to do remote viewing, to look at events in the future, to look at events in the past, things of that nature. So a lot of people embrace that theory a little bit more than some of the others as an explanation for shadow people, that it's actually somebody traveling in the astral realm that's observing for, someone. Also, there are people that flat out think that they're a type of demon, and that's the only explanation. And then some in the paranormal community say that they are nasty ghosts. My personal opinion is that the shadow people that I have encountered have a very different vibrational level than demons and human spirits and elementals. They are not human soul born, as I say. They are, the unborn. They have not ever had a human soul. I do not believe that they have come from, the pool of souls. So because they have such a different vibrational level, to me as a psychic medium, that's why I call them part of the unborn, because they have not possessed a human soul, and they're not meant to possess a human soul. Now, like, all spirits, not all shadow people are the same. Like I've said before, some can be very, very benign, where others can pose an extreme risk and a very significant risk, and can be just as dangerous as demons. They can attach to someone and literally possess them, just like, a demon or a nasty ghost can. So you have to really, be vigilant and watchful. Shadow people are capable of communicating. We have actually caught EVPs, and had intelligent responses, just not, guttural growls or anything like that, but they've been intelligent responses to what's been going on. My ghost hunting partner, Alex, I've mentioned in a couple of the episodes here on BYOSpirit and Everything Paranormal, that his daughter's house has a shadow person, and they have kind of, coexisted for several years in this house. And when they first moved into that house, this shadow person was not nice to Alex's daughter and his grandchildren. And Alex had to basically, sit the shadow person down and say, listen, knock it off, or I'm going to get rid of you, and you're not going to like what I do. And after that, things calmed down. The EVPs that Alex caught, we were doing an investigation, and he was trying to figure out what something was. And he was like, what is that? Is that a doll? What the heck is that? Because you're sitting there in darkness, and you're using a little IR light on your camera to try to look at things. And the EVP said, it's only just a doll. So that was quite, an intelligent response to what was happening. Alex saying, is that a doll? What is that? It's only just a doll. And then there was another one where, Alex was saying something about, getting a drink, and he had, a soda, and the EVP was Coca-Cola. In other words, he was saying that, he knew what Coca-Cola was. So, I think because a lot of times people, the way that shadow people typically manifest and wake people up, you see this thing up and over you when you're in bed, and that sense of foreboding wakes you up and, brings you out of a deep sleep and just scares you to death. And it can be very, very menacing. And that in itself is a very traumatizing kind of event. Nobody wants to go through that. And then if you have that, feeling where of a night paralysis, where you're being held down or something like that, those are the ones that you really kind of need to worry about, and you need to try and kind of determine, is it a shadow person? Is it something that you can't see through? Or is it more of an apparition that you can see through? Is it a pissed off ghost? Or is it something more malevolent than that? And you have to look for, various indicators and try to, ascertain what's going on. There are ways that you can try and rid yourself of shadow people, and I've done a recent episode on BYOSpirit and Everything Paranormal on a general house cleansing for negative energies and just low-level ticked off ghosties. So I'm going to do another specific video on Defense Against the Dark just for shadow people. And you'll have to, stay tuned for that. I know I'm teasing you guys. But that is it for Shadow People. I'm going to try and keep our episodes to between 20 and 30 minutes and not take up quite so much of your time. If you've got questions, hit me up on Twitter. It's BYOS Paranormal on Twitter. I believe that's what it is. I'll put the link in the description box to the Twitter. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in and following us here on YouTube. Be sure to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you know when we upload. I am going to try and upload once a week on Fridays. And if you've got any comments or questions, please leave them below, and I will do my best to get back to you just as quickly as possible. And if you have suggestions for future episodes of anything paranormal or occult related that you would like to know about, please leave them in the comments below. And until my next upload, be well and walk in the light, everyone. Bye-bye.